Hello there and welcome to Political Platform Show. I'm your host, Bakita Kundigabim. Political Platform Show is a weekly show designed to inform, engage, and educate, empower viewers by discussing cross-cutting issues ranging from political, social, economics, education, and cultural aspects. The show focuses on pressing issues affecting the people of South Sudan. Today, we are going to discuss the extension of transitional period and the fate of Tumaini Initiative. And we are joined in the studio by the SPLM Secretary General, Honorable Peter Lamboth, who is going to take us through this conversation. Comrade Lam, you are welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
To begin with, in September 14th, the transitional period was extended for a period of 2 years, leading to the postponement of December 2024 general elections to 2026. In regard to this, what is your take?
Well, thank you very much. The revitalized transitional government of national unity was set to conduct elections in December 2024. The presidency held a meeting in August. And the parties to the agreement were asked to go and engage with the mechanisms that are created by the revitalized agreement to seek from them what preparation have they done for the elections to take place. Because different political parties had different views about the upcoming elections. The position of SPLM was clear that we must go for elections because majority of the articles of the agreement that were prerequisites for elections were accomplished. Based on that, we had conducted a series of meetings with these mechanisms under the leadership of the high-level standing committee that was tasked to supervise the implementation of the agreement. So based on the reports that came from mechanisms, it was clear that majority of the mechanisms did not complete their work. Some of them needed 3 months to complete their work, others needed a long time, like the permanent constitution making process was actually asking for 18 months for them to complete their work. So after very serious discussions, it became clear that most of the parties agreed with SPLM that an election must take place in December 2024. But what really stopped the process was the fact that the Artigono, the revitalized transitional government of national unity, did not have the funds necessary to conduct the elections. That is what really led to the extension of 24 months after parties harmonized their positions. So 24 months became the possible option among so many. Some of the parties were asking for 26 months, some for 30 months, but 24 months was a reasonable time that was agreed upon by all the parties and then approved and accepted by the presidency.
Okay, now the extension has caused mixed public reactions. What is your take on this, and what is the international community and peace partners?
Well, I think as far as I'm concerned as Secretary General of SPLM, our position has always been that we must go for elections. We know how our people have suffered under transitional governments, and we think that the elections is the only way forward, because living in transitions does not help the government to provide services that are critical or needed, that are critically needed by our people. But the reality must hold in that the government was not prepared in terms of funding the elections, and the international community was also not ready to fund the elections, because when we were talking as SPLM that we want to go for elections, the international community was against that. And now that an extension came, the international community is also against the extension. And I think that is what we sensed for a long time, that they were just trying to see whether the government of national unity will have to put in place some funding for them to participate. So we share the the disappointment of our public that extension was not the best option to go by. But at the same time, we also need to realize that if there was no funding for the elections, and if some of the parties have not even registered because they still have armies out there, because when you have an armed wing, you cannot register as a political party. So most of these parties with armed wing were not registered.
Okay.
And people were saying that, oh, the SPLM want to manipulate the election because the other parties are not registered. And I think that was a criticism. So we think that the extension will give the chance and opportunity for these parties now to register, because most of their forces will now be unified and integrated into the SSPDF.
Okay, what are some of the policies and plans the SPLM as a ruling party is undertaking to make sure that the grassroots understands this new development?
You know, for us as SPLM, we are just one of the parties, but what we do is we operate within the SPLM system. After the extension, I wrote to all our state chairpersons and the administrative areas to sensitize our members that an extension has been made and an extension has been accepted by all of us, and that we have to provide them with reasons why an extension was there, because most of them were really disappointed that an election was not done. So that is what we did as far as SPLM is concerned. We are also hopeful that the other parties can also do the same as far as their members are concerned, so that they know. But I'm also recommending that the various parties, political parties in South Sudan, need to take joint missions to the states to sensitize the general public about the extension and what it means for peace in South Sudan. It is not one party that can do that. It is a joint group of parties that can actually do that, and hopefully that proposal will be taken by other parties.
Okay. In this regard, what are some of the critical provisions in the peace agreement that were not implemented that led to the extension of the transitional period?
Well, from the perspective of SPLM, it was the Chapter 2, the unification of forces, or the unified force integration. Did not take place as fully expected, and the reason was, which was given by mechanisms, was that they did not have the funds necessary. Even though the first batch was graduated, they are ready for deployment, but they are not able to transport them to various locations for them to be deployed, so that batch 2 can come to the training centers. That for us was a major issue. The other major issue, for at least for other parties, was that we don't have a permanent constitution. And that permanent constitution is necessary for the elections to take place. Other provisions that other parties are saying, as far as I'm concerned, are not prerequisites. They cannot prevent an election. But I think that with this new spirit now, with extension, it was agreed that 6 months will now be used to raise funds in order for the elections to take place in December 2026.
Okay. We are out for a short break, and we shall be right back with more. Do stay tuned with us.
Political Platform Show is a dynamic show designed to engage, inform, and empower citizens by facilitating direct dialogue between the viewers and guests, ranging for political, economic, social, and cultural issues. The show will focus on pressing local and national matters, encouraging transparency and fostering civic participations. Political Platform Show with Bakita Akwindik on SSBC.
Welcome back, and you are watching the Political Platform Show. Government says the 24 months will be utilized to mobilize funds aimed at the effective implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. How best is the ruling party going to utilize the 2 years to ensure they win an election in 2026?
Well, for us as SPLM, we have been organizing ourselves from 2021, and we have established our presence in the grassroots level. We have staffed our offices from from boomers all the way to the national level. What we remain with are a few things. Number one, we have actually done a draft of our elections agenda. We have also proposed our congresses that have to take place all the way to the national level to elect the leadership of the party sometime next year. We've also prepared concept notes for the primary elections within the party in terms of our cadres that will be running as members of parliament, governors, and so on. So in terms of preparations, I think what we have prepared ourselves already will have to be perfected now for the next 2 years for us to be able to be ready for the elections to take place. People of South Sudan and the SPLM are expecting us to be well prepared and well organized, and we are trying to live up to that expectation.
Are there some of the challenges or setbacks, given the fact that SPLM had prepared vigorously for 2024 elections?
No, we don't have setbacks. I think what is important now for this extension is that there were certain counties that were under IO, that were off limits, but now we are able to go there and make sure that we are able to make massive recruitments there and effect our operations there, so that we are fully operational all over the country. Otherwise, in terms of preparations, we are okay.
But has this affected the operationalization of the party activities, given the fact that previously you had put much attention to 2024 general election?
No, I think the party is supposed to be ready.
Okay.
And having been ready last year or the year before is even an incentive for us to give us more momentum to be able to put things forward this year and be able to organize even stronger and much better than what we did in the last 2 years.
Okay. To clear the air, do you think there will be no more extension of the transitional period?
There is no reason for us to think that an extension will be there.
Why?
The reason is that the presidency has been meeting regularly, and they know now that what led to the extension was because of lack of funding. So it was made clear that 6 months of the 24 months must be used for raising funds, and a number of sources of funding for elections were also indicated. So it is a matter of, at this time, that those who are tasked with putting funds together for elections are monitored and they are supervised, so that we are not yet caught off guard once again. So there is no reason or there is no expectation that another extension would take place. I think that our people will never be ready for that again.
Okay. Given the economic situation we're living in right now, what are some of the strategies that SPLM is utilizing to mobilize funds for the 2026 general elections?
You know, for us, the government elections is not an SPLM activity.
Yes.
But we can help with directions, but it is not entirely a SPLM issue. What is there is that the president, our president, President Salva Kiir, is working very hard to make sure that funds are raised to address the economic crisis in our country. You will remember that he went to China some months ago, and his trip to China will improve the economy of South Sudan based on what he had discussed with his colleague, President Xi Jinping of China. And I think that once these requests are operationalized, one of the key issues is funding the elections. So that's why we are saying that most of the things will work. Also investment in agriculture, investment in infrastructure, as well as water, and we think that whatever will happen will improve the economy of South Sudan massively. And we are also anticipating the launch of the operations of oil once again. Our team has been in Port Sudan. We are expecting them back today, and so the indications are positive that oil operations will resume, hopefully, if not this week, at least next week.
Okay. We're out for a short break. We shall be right back. Stay tuned with us.
Political Platform Show is a dynamic show designed to engage, inform, and empower citizens by facilitating direct dialogue between the viewers and guests, ranging for political, economic, social, and cultural issues. The show will focus on pressing local and national matters, encouraging transparency and fostering civic participations. Political Platform Show with Bakita Akwendik on SSBC.
Welcome back, Comrade Lam. Now let's look at the Tumaini Initiative, how it came about and how is it working. In 9th May 2024, Tumaini Peace Initiative was formally launched in Nairobi, Kenya, and May 16th declaration of the commitment was signed, a move some described as a renewed hope, and others were skeptical of its ability to substantially change the shape of the communal conflict in the country. What is your impression about this?
Well, the Tumaini Initiative was an initiative by our president. He made a request to his brother, President Ruto of Kenya, to help him bring peace in South Sudan. I think that all of us in the country are for peace. And so when the president launched the Tumaini Initiative, it has renewed hope for the people of South Sudan. And our teams have been engaged with the opposition groups in Nairobi ever since. They have initialed some of the protocols of the Tumaini consensus. And at this point in time, the report came back. It has been presented to the leadership of our country. And the presidency directed the parties signatory to the revitalized agreement to align Tumaini Initiative with the RRCs, which is the revitalized agreement. And that is what the parties to the revitalized agreement have been doing, and they have completed their work. What has remained now is for the presidency to meet and deliberate on it and come out with a direction for our negotiating team in Nairobi to take back, so that after a process of discussions there, then Tumaini can be signed.
Okay. Dating back, Tumaini Initiative was first held in San Egidio community in Rome. What led to the sudden change to Africa, particularly Kenya?
Well, I think that it was, yes, a discussion that was held in Rome for quite a number of times. But I think it was felt that it was not progressing. And so a venue had to be changed, to be brought to Africa. Maybe for it to have more impetus, because especially when the president also wants to go to Nairobi. It's not a very long distance away from here. And so the St. Egidio are also principal in the Tumaini Initiative now. They are part of it. And they brought their experience from Rome and brought it to Nairobi, and I think that is the spirit in which they are negotiating.
Okay.
So there is nothing wrong with the change of venue if it can help.
Okay. What do you understand about the alignment of the Tumaini Initiative to 2018 Peace Accord? And does Tumaini Initiative have legitimate powers to amend the 2018 peace deal?
The Tumaini Initiative, probably when it started, should have had terms of reference. I think there may not have been terms of reference for the teams that are negotiating in Nairobi. Because the idea, the principle is that the Tumaini Initiative must not be a standalone agreement. It must be an addendum to RRCs. Secondly, the Tumaini Initiative does not replace the revitalized agreement, the RRCs. It is supposed to complement what the RRCs has not accomplished. That was the spirit.
Okay.
Now, when negotiations took place in Nairobi, the government team that was sent divided themselves. The members of the government team that were from IO, SPLM IO, pull out from the negotiations, because they thought that the Tumaini overstepped their mandate by trying to replace the revitalized agreement. In that, there were some languages also coming from the opposition in Nairobi saying that Tumaini is the rescue is a rescue package for South Sudan, and that the country is failing or the government has failed, and that they are now the one to come and replace the RSS. So that affected some of the members of the RSS, the parties that signed the revitalized agreement. And so when the initial protocols of Tumaini Initiative were brought to Juba, the presidency asked the parties to the revitalized agreement to align the Tumaini Initiative with RSS. Part of the problem was that these protocols of the Tumaini Initiative were carbon copy of the articles of the RSS. And so some parties signatory to RSS were saying, why do you photocopy the RSS? Why don't you come up with new provisions? Then the question that we were asking as SPLM in that meeting is that what is wrong with harmless repetition or harmless
replication of
harmless redundancy? So when we saw that there were these kind of problems, we said, okay, as long as these are the same articles of RSS, you can always put in brackets where it is taken from, so that it doesn't cause the fall or at least the failure of the agreement. So I think as far as we are good, this was one of the issues. The second issue was that Tumaini Initiative came up with new mechanisms, which were not in RSS. We were replacing the mechanisms in RSS, and that became a serious concern with signatories to RSS. And we had to realign them in terms of if the name, because we say if you change Peter Lamb's name and you come with John, and I don't change my character, it will not change anything.
It will still be Peter Lamb.
It will still be Peter Lamb with new name.
Okay.
And so we say, okay, so if this new name is rejected by parties to the revitalized agreement, take what is it that is described under that mechanism and put it in the mechanism of RSS. And I think most of the parties agreed with that. Of course, there were some mechanisms that were giving away the sovereignty of South Sudan, and those were rejected outright, one of which is the high-level panel, which was composed of presidents of the region and led by Kenya. And now they will be the ones to supervise South Sudan, what was happening in South Sudan, and it is them to decide whether we are doing well or not. We thought that was a trusteeship council in a new uniform.
Okay.
And so that was rejected. So some of these, the Tumaini now is well aligned with RSS, and we believe that if the presidency looks at that and they have agreed that this is the right way to go, I think that Tumaini will be signed in a very short time.
Okay, now given the fact that the extension was made for another 2 years, the public is confused in between whether Tumaini still exists. So what is the fate of Tumaini? Because
Tumaini was not coming to make RSS come alive or to replace it.
Okay.
So the fact that now we have 2 years extension, it means now that we have a legitimate government, because the government was supposed to be dissolved on 22nd of no, is it 22nd? No, 24th.
22nd.
22nd of September.
September, yes.
So after 22nd of September, if there was no extension, there would not have been a government to negotiate with the Tumaini group. And so therefore the extension is actually giving life to Tumaini. Otherwise Tumaini would have died if RSS died also.
Okay.
So I think it is giving hope now that Tumaini, there is a government that is now there, that it must continue to negotiate with, and that it must sign the new agreement with.
Okay. What are some of the draft protocols of Tumaini Initiative, and how would they be incorporated or integrated into the peace agreement?
No, as I said before, for example, the preamble which was initialed,
yeah,
there's no problem with that. It is aligned with RSS. The cessation of hostilities is aligned with RSS. The humanitarian access is aligned with RSS. I think the only new thing that I saw there was the protocol on the communal conflict, which nobody has a problem with. So it is already accepted, incorporated. So really the main issues were on the new mechanisms that were created. Otherwise, even the power sharing also, which they now call as a responsibility sharing, nobody really has any concern about that, because we need our people to come back to South Sudan. We need comprehensive peace. And we are hopeful that General Thomas Shirilo will still join the Tumaini process, so that we can have all our brothers and sisters to come back home and implement the peace agreement for the next 2 years, so that whoever wants to form their own party can come and be able to register their party, and life goes on.
Okay, one of the protocol that I picked from Tumaini Initiative is that the all-out groups would be brought back to Juba. They have to come back home and build and then take the government forward. What is it that is going to take place if these people take up some of the positions in the government?
Well, I think there are two ways to address this. First of all, nobody in this government that I know of is against Tumaini.
Okay.
There is this perception.
Yes.
I don't know whether it is from the whole-out groups or from our own team that went to Nairobi, that there are people in the government who are against Tumaini. Nobody is against Tumaini. But people are against the fact that you can sign the Tumaini and then you create a bigger war in South Sudan here, because the members of RSS will run away from the country. So you will have to go negotiate another agreement. That was a concern. As long as you are able to harmonize the two agreements, nobody is against it. So to answer your question, there are two ways this can be done, and it is up to the presidency to decide that. The proposal is that, one, if you don't want to expand the government we have, then each party to RSS will have to vacate a position for the people that are coming in. Or you have to expand the government in order to accommodate those who are coming, so that you don't remove people you already have. So these are the two ways to do it. So I don't see a concern there as far as we are, unless people have a negative spirit that they are coming with to displace some people that they think are not wanted in the government.
But don't you think that removing some from the existing government and then replacing them with the all-out groups would disappoint some of these peace partners or peace signatories?
I think it would disappoint, because if the principle is to accommodate, why do you displace the one that is there? You just create a space for the newcomer to come in. I think that is my preferred approach to it, but I don't know what the presidency will decide, because it is their prerogative to make that decision.
Okay, as we come to the end of this program, highlight some of the party major developmental activities in the country.
Well, you know, as SPLM, our job is to organize our party, to train our cadres well. This year we have been emphasizing on cadres training, because these cadres we are training are also being sent to the states to take the same training for them, so that they are prepared for the elections. Because if you don't have that type of training for your cadres, they will not be able to carry out the activities that you expect. Secondly, we think that with the new resumption of the oil now, and with some of the economic packages that will be coming from other countries to help, we think that we need to emphasize to the government to deliver more service to our people. Because peace means that dividends have to be shown in the communities. And I want to appeal to our people, the people of South Sudan, that they really need to engage themselves in economic activities, especially in agricultural activities. There are some large part of our country is no longer engaged in war now. And there's no reason for our people not to engage in cultivation. It is through that local production that our living condition will be improved. And we have been talking and engaging with our SPLM offices in the grassroots even for SPLM offices to engage in agricultural activities. And this year, some of our offices in the Payams and Boomers and counties have actually had good yields, good production. And they must encourage the local communities to engage in that.
What about the youth? That brings me back to the question of youth, saying that they need to see their faces in the Tumaini Initiative.
Well, those that are coming through Tumaini, I've seen there is a massive recruitment that is taking place in Nairobi by Tumaini groups with the students. Some of them are becoming colonels, some are becoming even major generals. But I think that our youth, in terms of the SPLM, I think people have even seen now the ministers that we have are very young people. So there is that emphasis on the youth coming up now, because it's part of the plans of SPLM to empower the youth, not only to become tomorrow's leaders, but they must start leading now in order for us to have a sustainable party. Because if you're keeping the same old faces for so long, the transition will be difficult in that future. But Tumaini, of course, I think they have a lot of youth that they can empower to come with them. Hopefully, I think that is what they will do. So youth are not only the future, but the present now. We have to utilize the youth now, not tomorrow. And that has been our focus as SPLM.
So what is your takeaway for the viewers in regard to this conversation today?
Well, this is, I think our people need to understand fully the reasons why the extension was made for the next 2 years. It is not to let them down, but it is to make sure that peace prevails in our country. Secondly, that we need to make sure that the people of South Sudan themselves are able to understand and appreciate some of the difficult environments in which we operate. And we are hopeful that in the next 2 years should be the years for preparation for the elections. Because unless we conduct elections, these perpetual agreements will never stop. Because now we still have people who are not part of Tumaini. You have Gerald Thomas Cirillo is not part of Tumaini. He may come on board. You have Gerald Simon Gadwich is not part of Tumaini. These are people with forces on the ground. And so we have to encourage them also to come on board so that we have a complete peace, that we can now say, let us engage our public in prepare the country for the next elections. So I want our people to stop the intercommunal violence, engage in productive activities, and prepare the country for elections.
Okay. That finally brings us to the end of this show. I'm Bakita Kundiga Bim. Till we meet next time. Thank you for joining us.